I want to talk about the concept of tenacity and how that applies to people who are avoidant. Little story. My mother this week was talking to my son, where he was saying, my mom did this, blah, 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 and he can't believe it because it just was not what he expected that I would be able to do. And my mother, in this incredibly nasty tone of voice, said, "Oh, well, she gets obsessive about things, and then she just makes sure that they get done no matter what. It doesn't matter what comes around, she'll get it done." And I was like, no, that's not obsessiveness. That is tenacity. I mean, by definition, that is tenacity. So, yeah, I mean, first of all, it's kind of astounding that I stood up for myself. I mean, that is not quite, but almost, that's gaslighting. When, she'll take something and interpret it in a way that, somebody's saying something nice about me and she just can't stand it, so she's got to switch it around to make it negative. Not technically, by definition, gaslighting, but still. And the thing is that she said it to my son, and I basically cannot tolerate my son watching somebody be rotten and mean to me, because I think that's kind of abusive, that he's watching somebody being mean to his mom. So that had something to do with it. But then I was also thinking about it. In general, I think that tenacity is one of the hallmarks of being avoidant. Because, basically, to do anything, you've got to look at what the avoidance is telling you and basically tell it to suck up and ignore it and do whatever you need to do regardless. So even if it's a tiny little thing, I got a cat here, it's still, it takes everything to be able to get over that instinct to not do whatever you're doing. And I don't think people give a lot of people, but especially avoidant people, credit for that. See, and that's the other thing, is if you're trying to do something, it's a lot easier to do it on your own, I think, because a lot of times I think that the avoidant sort of terror, panic attack type things that pop up, I think they're like warning lights on the car that are basically saying, time to check in. And we see them all as, air raid warning, tornado imminent, bunker down or die. Or that we get these little warnings, but the thing is that they hit for every single person around us. So we don't get just one little warning, we get like 30 all at once. Oh my God. So if you're trying to be tenacious and do something that seems completely impossible, think about that. Are you needing to check in? Is that what the problem is? That you need to check in with yourself right now, and then, and also, try to remember that being tenacious and sticking to it, that's avoidant. I know that's like mad to say. That's so positive. In anybody else, it would be positive. In us, it's like I said, obsessive. You'll find somebody who can say something to twist it into a negative, awful thing. Don't listen to that, including yourself. You'll downgrade it. You won't recognize it. And again, it's normal. The things that avoidant people have to do to go and buy a cup of coffee, to get out of the house and get in the car and put the key in the ignition to leave, that is so much more than anybody else could understand. So other people might talk about the tenacity of, I don't know, spending 10 years to write a book or something like that. That's very tenacious that they stuck to it like that. Which, by the way, I can tell you absolutely about an avoidant person who took a very, very long time to write a book, which is awesome. I mean, seriously, to not give up over that much time is awesome. Take it from me. I want to give up halfway through these videos, and they're like 10 minutes long. So to take that much time to write a book is amazing. And what was the feedback finally when it was finished? Oh, I thought you've been working on that for 10 years. I can't believe, or whatever it was. I can't believe it's taken you this long. Not, congratulations, you finally got it done. I'm like, avoidant people sort of collect these other people around them who sort of validate all the nasty thoughts that go through their heads. And then, you know, it's validated, so it's right. So it's these things that anybody else would be like, woohoo, let's, you know, rent a hall and have a party. I've also heard of people doing that after spending 10, 15 years to write a book. That's sort of what people normally do. And avoidant people downgrade. So, on the one hand, you know, you get that CBT problem, which is that if you sort of look at things positively, it reminds you of the opposite. So I'm not saying put little Post-its on your mirror to remind you that you're doing awesome. Because if somebody said that to me, I would want to throw up in my mouth, and probably not even just in my mouth, but like projectile vomit. So that's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying, if something wants to beat you up for taking a long time to do something, remind yourself of how much more effort it took and how much more determination it took for you to get it done than the average person. And don't listen to people who have these nasty little comments about what you do and why, because I think it's highly underrated, the tenacity that people who are avoidant have, the stick-to-itiveness, the living on hope, that, you know, people take a chance despite having this thing ringing through their head saying, this is impossible, this can't be done, you're not worthy, blah, 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 all that, and they still do it. You know, I heard this crap about avoidant people don't have children. That is a lie. I think it's about the same rate of avoidant people having children as the general population. That's a lie to say avoidant people don't have children. You know, maybe they have them later in life. Maybe they have fewer of them. Maybe they don't do the, oh, I'm going to get married and have a baby with this person, that person, the other person, and have like 16 baby mamas and, you know, 6 baby daddies and keep getting divorced and remarried, and every time they have another baby. Maybe they have fewer children, is what I'm trying to say, than maybe the norm, but I don't think that that there are less avoidant people that have at least one child. I think that's a lie. I think it's really hard to get in a solid relationship if you're an avoidant person. Yes. But it happens. And again, you downgrade. You know what? I mean, maybe you've only had 1 or 2 relationships. Guess what? That was the norm. Up until like 50 years ago, that was the norm. That's what people are supposed to do. Have 1 relationship. That's it. Nowadays, you've got like this Tinder crap and everything else, where you're supposed to be finding a new person every other night if you're single. This is like bull. This is not normal. So, try to remember that. Try to remember that the normal thing for everybody else is, compared to what avoidant people go through, lazy and easy and a joke. And yeah, it seems like they've got everything together, but they aren't fighting for anything. And, if somebody gets a splinter, it just about kills them. And avoidant people are much, much, much stronger than the average person out there. And it's just a fact. And I mean, I know that's really nasty and it's a comparison thing, but it's just a fact. What avoidant people can go through and tolerate is so much more than what the regular person is. And, if you get an avoidant friendship, I mean, for real, I've had avoidant friendships with avoidant people. And let me tell you, from seeing other people who are married, an avoidant friendship is stronger and deeper than any marriage that I've seen. Why? Because it's such an effort to try to connect and to get over the idea that you're not worthy and to trust somebody else. So much more. So it's instantaneously, just because you had to go through all that, so much deeper than what people do when they get married nowadays. They get married and they get divorced like within a year, and that is not considered abnormal. Why? Because people can't stick it out. And avoidant people can. They stick it out through just about everything. They stick it out through the thing in their head that says, leave now. They get up and go to jobs that make them feel suicidal every single day. This is super common, unfortunately. That's just how people are. And, I mean, it's so, really, try to look at it that way. When you're trying to pull yourself and suck yourself down and beat yourself up, just remember what it took. How many times you had to remind yourself, yes, I'm going to do this. Yes, I'm going to do this. Yes, I'm going to do this. That is tenacity. That is not you being damaged that you can't just pop out of the house like everybody else. That is them being lazy and you being strong. And I'm sorry, but that is just how it is. And I wouldn't try to think of it every day, because it will drive you nuts. You'll be like, no, that's too nice. I can't say that about myself. But it's also a fact. It's also a fact. It might be counter to every bit of avoidance that you have, but it's just a fact. It's just a solid fact. So, if you really are, especially if you're up against somebody that's telling you crap about how you never do this and you never do that and you're never good enough and blah, 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 and why aren't you doing this like every other person on the planet, and say, yeah, if I had 100 less things to do before I even left the house than everybody else, then yeah, I'd be doing a lot more. So don't listen to that crap. If you can positively say anything about yourself and the person who's around you immediately turns it on its head and turns it into a negative, pay attention to that. Because they're trying to keep you under their thumb for whatever stupid reason. That is their issue, not yours. They're not right. If they're using basically a synonym, but it's a negative synonym, they're not right. They're not right. And pay attention to that. Pay attention to who's saying it, and you will learn eventually to take everything they say with a grain of salt and know that they're saying it with some sort of negative opposite of rose-colored glasses. And it's probably not accurate. Now, they're the people, if you really want to beat yourself up, that you want to hang out with. But if you're, in any way, shape, or form, feeling any way, shape, or form like you're ready to go on, those people, remember to ignore what they say, because it's just not true. Because, again, facts. They might not experience, they might not understand it, they might be trying to gaslight you, but it's a fact that it takes more for an avoidant person to do just about anything, just because you're getting over that wonderful chatter going back in the back of their head saying they're not worthy and they shouldn't do anything. And there it is.